Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap, podcast number 1640, Unusual and Quirky Ancestral Occupations. So I thought this would be, I actually came across one when I was researching for a client, and I thought, wonder what other ones are out there. So I have a list. I just have to bring my list up front here so I can see it. And let's get into it. So welcome to everybody on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TikTok. And if you're watching the replay, thank you for stopping by and watching. Okay, so here we go. So we've got some really unusual and quirky occupations for you that our ancestors used to have. So my question for you as we're going through this list is, do you have any ancestors that had any had any of these occupations? And some of them are, I'm sort of like, okay, I didn't know about them. I'll put it this way, there's a lot in here I didn't know, but I did have to go researching once I discovered one of these occupations on a census report for a client's ancestor. And so it got me thinking, what other ones are out there? So I have a list right here on the screen next, right here. So if you see me looking over there, that's what I'm looking at. All right. So the first one is a professional mourner. Yeah, in some cultures, professional mourners were hired to attend funerals and loudly express grief. They added a dramatic element to the ceremonies and were an essential part of the ritual. Okay, I think that one may still be in use in some cultures today, because I have heard of professional mourners that go to some funerals just to pump up the numbers a little bit and to make the noise. Yes, I have heard of that one. A leech collector. Before modern medicine, leeches were used for bloodletting, a common medical practice. Leech collectors would wade out into marshy waters to gather these creatures for the apothecaries and doctors. I'm like, yeah, don't want that job either. This one I could probably do. I have the voice that would carry for it, although I haven't had to project my voice in a lot of years. But the town crier. Before the widespread of newspapers and electronic communication, town criers were the main source of news and announcement in towns and cities. They would read out loud news, proclamations, or local events. And in some areas, we still have the town criers. In fact, when, were they called town criers? When Queen Elizabeth II passed away, they had to announce that King Charles III or Prince Charles was now King Charles III. And I believe they had town criers doing that in one of the things that I saw. So town criers are still around in some places today, especially in those that have the historical towns that you go into. Like if you go to Williamsburg, I think in Williamsburg, we had a town crier in Williamsburg. And when you get to places like Williamsburg, where they have the town set up as it was back in the day, this one was back in the late 1700s, and everybody who is in any of the stores or anything is in complete costume and in character as well. They speak like they spoke back then. And in fact, one of them, yes, there is one of those on this list here. And it was just very entertaining to walk into a store and to be greeted in the way that you would have been greeted in the late 1700s, and to have a conversation as a modern day person talking to somebody from the late 1700s. It was awesome. And then they had character actors that played. We saw Thomas Jefferson. That was one of the characters. We actually saw him twice. Once he was he'd been riding through the country to let this was to let everybody know that the Declaration of Independence had been signed. So this was being carried around through the United States at the time, to the different states, to let them know that we are now independent and blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about that. And then, but the first one we saw him in was in the 1800s at some point. I can't remember the time. But the funniest one was that when he was doing the 1700s one, in 1779, he's standing out there. We're at the back of the governor's house in Williamsburg, and it's all grass. And then there's this big hedge. On the other side of the hedge is a railway track. And a train happened to go past. And it wasn't just any train. It was a passenger train that went past. You could tell by the cars that were on it. And he stops there and he looks at this thing, and he looks back at us, and he looks at this thing again and goes, that is an interesting contrivance. I might invest in something like that. seems to go very fast. So that was kind of interesting, but he still stayed in character. So yes, so town criers, you will see them around. You will see them in the living city, the living towns where they have the people who are in character all the time. So you get to experience what it was like to live in that time period. So you'll see that. Then there is this one cracked me, the knocker upper. And I was like, what the hell is a knocker upper? That one has a completely different meaning today. But a knocker upper back in the time, before alarm clocks were common, knocker uppers would go around waking people up for work by tapping on their bedroom windows with long sticks or shooting peas at the windows. Yeah, knocker upper. Who knew? A resurrectionist. And I was sort of like, okay, this sounds, there's some of these things that were coming up. I was sort of like, well, these are very interesting. Also known as body snatchers. These individuals would illegally exhume bodies from the graves to sell to medical schools for dissection and study. Oh, yuck. Then you had the rat catchers. Before modern pest control, rat catchers were employed to control rodent populations in cities and towns, often using ferrets or a vital role in preventing the spread of diseases. Yeah, I'm glad somebody else did that job because I don't do well with rodents. A powder monkey. And this one I have heard of before. In naval warfare, young boys, often as young as 10, were employed on warships to carry gunpowder from the ship's magazine to the artillery pieces. This was a dangerous job due to the risk of explosions. You think? Imagine sending your kid off to be a powder monkey on a naval ship. Ugh. A gong farmer, G-O-N-G, farmer. A less glamorous but essential job, gong farmers were responsible for cleaning out privies and cesspools. They usually worked at night and were well paid for their unpleasant work. I should hope so. You're dealing with all that crap, literally. A sin eater, SINE-EATER, sin eater. In some cultures, a sin eater was a person who would ritually consume a meal over a corpse, symbolically taking on the sins of the deceased to ensure their peaceful passage to the afterlife. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that one. Lamplighters. In some places, they still have lamplighters because of the time period, villages and things that they have. A lamplighter. Before electricity, street lights, lamplighters would walk the streets at dusk, lighting gas street lamps, and then return at dawn to extinguish them. I've seen lamplighters. Where was I when we saw the lamplighters? I think it was in Europe at one of the Christmas markets. We saw that. Ice cutter. Before refrigeration technology, ice cutters would harvest ice from the frozen lakes and ponds in the winter, store it in ice houses, and deliver it to the households and businesses in the warmer months. That would be a very cold job. Human alarm clock. In some factories, particularly during the Industrial Revolution, a person was employed to wake workers up for their shifts by tapping on their windows with long sticks. So that's kind of like that. What was the other one that I had in there? The knocker-uppers. Yes. A pin splitter. Before machine-made pins, pin splitters manually cut and sharpen pins from metal wire, a delicate and time-consuming task. Yeah. With those, yeah, I know what a pin splitter is. I've seen the split pins. A cigar maker, SAGGAR maker. In the pottery industry, cigar makers often crafted special containers, cigars, maybe I'm saying that wrong, used to encase pottery during firing to protect it from smoke, ash, and temperature variations. They may still do some of that today in some of them, but then most of them don't use firing. They use the electrical kilns or the gas-powered kilns where they don't have the smoke and the ash, and they're more consistent on the temperature. But in some cultures, they still actually do use the fire, so they may still have those in these days. A herb strewer. In royal courts, herb strewers had the job of scattering herbs and sweet-smelling flowers on the floors to combat bad odors and potentially ward off the plague. Fuller. In the wool industry, fullers cleaned and thickened wool by trampling it in water. Let's try that again. In the wool industry, fullers cleaned and thickened wool by trampling it in water mixed with a cleaning agent like urine, yuck, or fuller's earth. I have no idea what fuller's earth is. I should look that one up before we came on here. A bone setter. Ugh, that just gives me the chills just thinking about that one before I even read what it is. So a bone setter, before the field of orthopedics, bone setters were practitioners who would manually set broken bones and treat joint problems, often with no form of medical training. Yikes. Oh, let's see. The hurdy-gurdy girl. These women operated hurdy-gurdies, a type of stringed musical instrument on the streets or in establishments for entertainment, often accompanied by a monkey. Let's see. Badger. A badger was a person who bought goods like corn or wheat in one place and then traveled to sell them in another place, a precursor to the modern day traders. Let's see. Necessary woman. In large household and in institutions, the necessary woman was responsible for cleaning and maintaining the privies or outhouses. That's another crap job. A fletcher specialized in making arrows, particularly the feathering and assembly, which was a crucial skill in the times when archery was prominent in warfare. Yeah, some of those arrows had to be able to travel straight and long distances, and it really came down to how the arrows were made. So that was definitely a very good skill to have. A peruk maker, P-E-R-U-K-E maker, or wig maker. Now, this one, I knew them as a wig maker. We actually got to talk to a wig maker in Williamsburg. It was quite funny. Crafted wigs, which were highly fashionable among the upper classes, especially in the 17th and 18th centuries. Now, when we were in Williamsburg, we walked into the shop. We had, we're just walking around, browsing, going in different stores. We walked in this one, and this woman's sitting behind the counter there, and she is hand making a wig. And she greeted us in the way they do in the 1700s, and then proceeded to try to sell my husband a wig and was talking about the type of wig that he could have, that would suit him very well. Now, my husband was 6'5", not a small guy. And so this woman was talking to him in the English that they used at the time and talking about how wonderful he would look in these wigs, and actually tried to get him to try some on. This woman was like 5 foot. She was a little taller than me. I'm 5'4", so she was about 5'5", 5'6", trying to reach up on my 6'5" husband to put a wig on his head to see how he would look. We were cracking up laughing so hard. Yeah, he never did buy a wig. So those are some of the weird and wacky, wild and unusual and quirky jobs and occupations that some of our ancestors may have had. So look back through your family tree and find out what are some of the quirky and unusual jobs that your ancestors had, and just see where they were at, and yeah, what quirky and unusual jobs did your ancestors had? Leave them in the comments below, because I'm always curious to see what other quirky jobs. Those are the ones I happened to find today when I did a search for them. So just curious to see what other ones are out there, and what ones that your ancestors had. So that's it from us for today. And as for Sam on TikTok, who said, stop talking in the and end the live. I know you see this. Yes. Well, if you don't want to watch, go away. It's as simple as that. This is my show on my TikTok, my rules. So if you don't like it, bug off. That's all I've got to say about that. So anyway, you didn't have to come and watch. So anyway, that's the end of my list. And that's it from me for today. We'll be back tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. And thank you for all the love that I get on these lives. We're on TikTok, for all those that give me the love and everything else. I truly appreciate it. And for those of you on Facebook and YouTube that are tuning in, thank you for tuning in and watching. We totally appreciate you coming in and spending just a few minutes with us each day as we talk about things that can help you live your best life now, whether it's tracing your stories from your ancestors and finding out new things about your ancestors that, maybe you find that you've got a musical background. You can't, you've got the singing thing, but nobody in your immediate family sings or anything else or has that musicality about them. But maybe it could be that you had like a great grandparent who was an opera singer or something. You never know what you're going to find until you go and research. And some of the traits do get passed down from generation to generation. So what traits have been passed down through generations to you? And being able to research your family history gives you helps with your identity of who you are and what it is that you do, because some things are inbred into you, believe it or not. Some traits do get passed down through the genes. It's quite amazing, through the DNA and everything else. But anyway, that's it from us. Oh, and then we also help you live your best life now with travel. So if you want to do your Before the Dirt Nap adventures, you can go off and do that. We can help with that. We specialize in New Zealand, Australia, and the South Pacific Islands. So if you're interested in those, let us know. If you got interested in other areas as well, please let us know, because I have a team of people who all have their own speciality in different countries. And then what else do we do? Oh yeah, we just give you fun things that will help you live your best life now, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's finding more confidence within yourself. We do a little bit of those sort of life skill coaches as well. I have been through a lot in my life. And so my goal is to share as much of my life lessons that I have learned with others to help them live their best life now. So that's what we're all about. You don't have to be wealthy to live your best life now. It's wherever you are, whatever you want to do to live your best life now. That's what we're here to pass on the information for, to help you do that. So go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we will catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hei konera.